is Jermaine Megwa, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most serious and ongoing challenges we face both in the US and globally: economic inequality. We'll look at what causes it, how it's grown over time, and most importantly, what we can do to fix it through policy reforms like the Raise the Wage Act and the Social Security Fairness Act. The growing divide. Let's begin with what economic inequality actually means. It refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, income, and resources within a society. In the US, this gap is striking. According to Catherine Scoffer, the wealthiest 20% of households earn more than the bottom 80% combined in 2018. But it's not just about money. Inequality affects our social and political systems too. It shapes opportunity, weakens democracy, and affects everything from schools to hospitals. The urgent problem. This issue isn't limited to poor countries, it's everywhere. It impacts both developed and developing nations by increasing poverty and decreasing social mobility. A big reason inequality continues is something called digital redlining, where certain communities, usually lower income or communities of color, have less access to internet and tech. This leads to worse healthcare, education, and job opportunities. Inequality is baked into systems through unfair tax laws, lack of quality education, and even migration of talent from poor to rich countries. Causes and consequences. So why is this happening? A few reasons. First, policy choices like tax breaks for the rich and fewer worker protections. Then, systematic inequality from underfunded schools to expensive healthcare. Finally, technology can make things worse when it benefits only those who already have access. All of these feed a cycle. Reduce mobility, increase frustration, and a system where people would work hard but still fall behind. Key historical events. Now let's look at three major events that made inequality worse: the Great Recession of 2008, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Each of these moments shifted more wealth to the top while hurting working families. The Great Recession. The 2008 financial crisis devastated the US middle class. Millions lost homes, jobs, and savings while big banks got bailed out. Economist Emile Sayes notes that during the recovery, the top 1% captured 95% of all income gains. This shows how economic shocks don't affect everyone equally. The wealthy often recover fast, while others fall further behind. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. This law, passed in 2017, lowered taxes for corporations and the wealthy. While many Americans saw only small savings, corporate tax revenue dropped over 40%. That meant less funding for public services like education and infrastructure. The benefits went mostly to top earners, widening the income gap even more. The COVID-19 pandemic. When COVID-19 hit, the economy collapsed, but not for everyone. Low-income and frontline workers lost jobs and faced major health risks. Meanwhile, billionaires saw record gains. Zia Kurushi states that the pandemic pushed inequality higher by deepening pre-existing divides. It was a stress test that exposed how vulnerable everyday Americans really are. Key historical events. To understand how inequality has grown, let's look at three major events in recent US history: the Great Recession of 2008, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Each of these events made inequality worse, shifting more wealth upward while leaving everyday Americans behind. As we talked about some historical events that have affected economic inequality, we could also talk about two proposed solutions that are also acts that could also help solve economic inequality. One of these acts is the Raise the Wage Act of 2023. This act would increase the federal minimum wage to $17 an hour by 2028, helping millions of low-wage workers, especially women and people of color. According to economist David Cooper, this would also narrow racial and gender pay gaps. Still, some experts warn it could cause job losses or that the Earned Income Tax Credit might provide similar benefits more safely. It's a debate between direct wage boost versus targeted income support. Another act that can help solve economic inequality is the Social Security Fairness Act of 2023. This act tackles inequality in retirement benefits, especially for teachers, firefighters, and other public workers. It would eliminate the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset, which reduces benefits unfairly. The National Education Association called it a monumental victory, but there's a catch. It doesn't expand Social Security to everyone. Experts like Elisa Manel argue the long-term solution is to extend coverage to all state and local workers, closing more of the gaps. Combining solutions. The Raise the Wage Act helps now during people's working years. The Social Security Fairness Act helps later after they retire. They complement each other beautifully. One lifts wages, the other ensures fair retirement. Together, they address inequality across the whole lifespan, not just for today, but for tomorrow too. Final takeaways. To wrap up, economic inequality in the US is real, deep, and growing. It's shaped by historic events, flawed policy, and social systems that don't serve everyone equally. But we're not powerless. Reforms like the Raise the Wage Act and Social Security Fairness Act offer real hope. They may not be perfect on their own, but together, they show how targeted laws can build a more equal, more just America. Thank you for listening, and that is my presentation.